Why, hello. Week 37 Devil's Advocate hot take is that privilege has been viewed as a superpower for way too long, actually. Because it's not. It's really not. Privilege is not a superpower for most. Privilege, by far, is a weed. It's a disease, a cancerous weed of a disease at that. And it's spreading like dandelions. Last one of the season. And it'll just keep propagating forever, endlessly, eternally even. Because privilege is by no means a proper superpower. Privilege is a disease that lives on like weeds. It doesn't look like it's about to die off because the whole point is to kill you, the host. Weeds live on the nutrients of everything around it. The privilege live on the life and the nourishment of the less privileged around them. Privilege isn't a superpower. Privilege is very much a disease, and it can only kill that itself off when everyone around you has been But now that the YouTube short is over, well, welcome to the realm of Millenia. Be ye man, woman, child, a spirit creature, or a demon. Be ye a native migrator, or maybe even invader into the realm. Welcome. For I am your host, the Millennium Mailman, here today, and I'll be world building for you long after you've already begun to acclimate and fit in. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and please do enjoy this Mailmen Monday, Week 37 Devil's Advocate hot take. Privilege is not a superpower. It's a disease, it's a weed, and it's growing fast amongst the populace. People have consistently, as I said, viewed it as a superpower, and it's really not. It's really not, people. Privilege is not this grandiose superpower. We turned it into a word to better identify things like nepotism, which is a privilege for the children of the people who actually worked their ass off in order to get the things that their children could benefit from, right? Nepotism to a certain degree can be a superpower, but at the same time, if your child doesn't grow up to be a hard worker or someone who appreciates the nepotism you earned for them, they're going to become a terrible human being, and everyone agrees to it, right? Privilege is very good, but at the same time, most cases it is very bad because most people who are privileged don't turn out to be very good people, which is why I consider it a disease, which is why I recognize it as a cancerous weed inhabiting the society. And I dare take that hot take stance for the devil's advocate, right? It is very much not necessarily a good thing, but people view it as an exceptionally good thing that they get jealous and envious of, because part of that, not necessarily dictionary definition, but that social definition of privilege is that the privileged are people who don't actually participate in the suffrage of what it generally takes in order to have something. They just get it, right? When you hear this talk about pretty privilege, the pretty people never had to work hard to be found attractive to other people. Pretty people have the privilege of being able to sift through everyone they consider less ugly or totally ugly for the super handsome or the super rich or the super this or the super that, just for the sake, because they are pretty and they will be chosen before maybe someone less pretty. So pretty privilege is a thing. But hence the disease. Pretty people don't appreciate it once they recognize they have pretty privilege. Pretty people often have to face the music pretty harsh and pretty bad, or maybe even be punched in the face just enough times to no longer be considered pretty before they realize darn, I was such a bad person, and now I have to be a good person to even get people to look my way. They are making their future life so much harder by not just doing, either appreciating the pretty privilege that they have, or not disrespecting the people around them who actually nourish and embellish them back just for being pretty. You have, I said nepotism, I said pretty privilege, and then you have the pretty privileged, or dare I say the white privileged, right? You have people who never had to suffer. Like back in the day when we were trying to fix that hunger issue, we had slaves. When we had people dying of overwork, we had slaves in order to fix that. Now, what industry was it? We have working industries, we have food industries, we have big old power plants and assembly line workership that makes food a non-factor, at least here in the American states. We have all these things for all of everyone to deal with, except the whites. And the whites, dare I say the whites, oh my God. The whites never had to consider hearing about the history. The only history they have to hear about is the shameful white guilt that I just don't understand why they would kill themselves over. You have white people defaming themselves and just faming their own race. It's like, leave that to the black people. Let them have their satisfaction. No, I'm kidding. But but yes, it is a privilege of white people that you don't have to be educated on the history of your own suffrage. And for some reason, you're self-sabotaging yourselves and your fellow white people because, for what? You didn't participate in slavery. Like, sure, you get to benefit, but so does the rest of the world. So does the rest of the black people, the Mexicans, all the colored folk benefit from not having to necessarily participate in being enslaved, genuinely. It's not just the privilege of white people. The only privilege that white people have is that they don't have a history of having been slaves themselves, at least here in the American states. White people were never enslaved, so you don't have to endure being taught at school, at home, even amongst your fellow peers, of how harsh it was to be a slave, how harsh it was being beaten during Jim Crow. The white privilege is that you don't have to take an extra history lesson, both in and outside of school, to understand how badly your ancestors suffered, because you certainly were not alive during the time of those grievances for us to blame you. We sure can blame your fathers, your great-grandfathers, but we're not blaming you specifically. We have a problem with your white heritage, okay? Because if it wasn't for your white heritage, we wouldn't have to endure an extra history lesson, and you know we're bad at school. I'm kidding. I love you black people. I like myself. I love you black people of mine. I still do hate the history lessons I get, even to this day and age. It's like, why do I have to listen to hear you out? I'm black. I also understand black people suffered. I live in a nice house, and you on the street. That has nothing to do with me. Nepotism, people, nepotism. Allegedly, right? White privilege says that you get to have the opportunity to walk your days happy and free. Just because you chose to do the stupid thing and live and wallow in self-loathing white guilt has nothing to do with you not being able to participate in white privilege. It's a privilege to not be forced to take classes about this ridiculous racial history. It's racist. It's racial history. It's racist. You don't have to do that. But time and time again, white people will never stop taking those classes of their own free will. erasing their white privilege effectively. Because you don't have to take those classes, but you do. And then you find shame in yourself and shame amongst your peers, and actually cause your peers, fellow nepotist children who don't have to participate in that, to actually breed resentment. Yes, I'm gonna say it. If there's any punishment for having white privilege, it's coming from your fellow white people. Like, what is wrong with you? It was a privilege that you never had to suffer those consequences, because you weren't a part of the people who did the things that need compensation to be paid. You're not them. You're the children of them. Take what you got and move on. Brush it off your shoulder and walk. Just because your old man died and left a little dust on your shoulder, brush that shit off and keep walking. Just be good. Be better than your father was, and you'll be fine. There are bad people all around the world. There will be haters that are gonna hate. You know the phrase, haters gonna hate. So brush it off and keep walking. Why would you ruin your white privilege by tolerating the conversation that doesn't partake in, well, not participating in the conversation, but trying to justify a past that you have no business trying to justify, trying to spit and disdain a past you had no part of, justify or invalidate or unjustify a past that has nothing to do with you. It might have stuff to do with your ancestors, but guess what? You're not your parents, you're not your parents' parents. So unless you agree with them or anything, take it as a political opinion and keep it to yourself. You'll be fine. Even if you do agree with them, take it as a political opinion and not share it. I voted for, shut the hell up. Shut up. Can't hold your vote against you if you never tell anyone what it was. Shut up. Keep your white privilege. Unless, of course, you love school that much, and especially loved history class, and love drumming up the past and how it affects you today. It's a privilege. That is your white privilege. You get to benefit just like everyone else does, except you don't have to suffer the debt of your parents. And no one can make you unless you let them, right? In which case, you are your own worst enemy because you are willfully taking on the debt of someone you didn't need to. It's the past. Leave it there. What is wrong with you? Right? Privilege is a disease. It's a weed, and it's spreading. And people seem to exclusively see it as a superpower. You know, the grass is always greener on that other side. It's not. Because especially with that last example, people with white privilege are spraying salt across their lawns. They're chemically killing their own grass. What is wrong with you? You think their grass that is being chemically pounded to kill itself is beneficial? No, it's really not. It's really not. It's ruining everything. But because grass is greener on the other side, people outside of privilege tend to make more and more privileged situations for those around them as well as themselves, and pretty much directly hurt themselves and those around them trying to be privileged. Or, God awful, worst of all, they'll hurt themselves and those around them, not realizing how privileged they are. You are privileged enough to live in a first world country with futuristic problems. You are privileged enough to have these conversations about pride, not only regular pride or national pride, but of gay pride and things like this. You are privileged enough to live in a society where if you were born, I don't know, 30 years earlier, you could actually be killed in the street, and no one would bat an eye. You are privileged enough as a gay person to commit a terroristic war crime and kill someone, do a mass shooting, and be not eternally convicted to the lowest part of a jail cell. You are privileged, yet you're going to point the finger at what? People with white privilege particularly? For what? It's you who's not making sense. Nah, I'm crossing a major street. Light's still green for them, red here, and it's walking time. Almost ran me over, son of a bitch. Almost ran me over. Pardon my language, right? But yes, privilege of the privileged. It goes underappreciated, and it's so terrible. Privilege is a conversation people don't fully understand, but everyone wants to take a part in the conversation. And I don't understand why. Because a lot of the people taking part of the privilege conversation don't understand the privileges they have. I'm a black man in America, and I'm trying to talk and take the devil's stance, right? Put me in the time of the Salem witch trials, and I'm over here trying to defend the devil. Oh boy, I'd be noosed up and lynched for a lump sum number of things. 1, for being black, 2, for speaking that witchcraft, and 3, daring to say women are equal or better than men. Oh boy, that's a trifecta right there. If only I was a little more gay. Oh boy, they would have burned me too. Stuck garlic and lemons in my wounds. Giving me that crucifix treatment. Bore my own cross to the center of the town, then put me on the stake. Giving me all the splinters. What's another thing? Back in the time of the witch trials, what else would have been? God forbid, I would have said death to America too in front of their face, or just been accused of it. Oh no. I am so privileged to be able to live in this modern society. Because if I said Christianity or anything like that was second tier, Christianity and Jews are the best. What do you mean they're second tier, second class? I would have been doused in gasoline they didn't know existed. They would have laced me in crude oil and made it burn. Oh, I'm the best around. No one's gonna ever keep me down. Privilege isn't a superpower, no matter how much people view it as one and wish they could have more of it. Privilege is not a superpower. Unlike the dictionary definitions, the social definition of privilege is just the difference between those who had to endure to have what they got and those who didn't. If you live in the first world, God forbid you were born in a first world country instead of a third world country, you are already privileged to be able to have access to all the first world country amenities that you cannot even find in a third world country. You are privileged enough to have a first world country educational system, healthcare system. Pretty privileged at that. Okay? You are not just a third world country descendant. You are a first world country experience haver. Why would you throw that away just to accuse people of having more privilege than you? Get your privilege up. Get your own privilege up and shut up. Golly. Privilege is not a superpower. It is a debilitating weakness. Why? Not necessarily because it's inherently bad. That's why it can be seen as a superpower to some. But because of people's non-understanding about privilege, they turn it into this debilitating weakness. If more people fully understood what it was to be privileged and how privileged they are, let alone an American talking about privilege, right? If you actually understood privilege before you started trying to take part in the emotionally charged aspect of the privilege conversation, more people would be better off. I truly do think 90% more people would be better off had they not tried to insert themselves in the emotional aspect of the privilege conversation when they understand nothing actually about privilege as a word, let alone privilege as a whole. I truly believe 90% of the people would be better off. But because, you know us, ignorant Americanos, we will never silence ourselves just to have a conversation. It wouldn't be American of us. We wouldn't be Americans if we willfully shut up before we had a conversation. Right? So, yeah, there is that. But hey, I feel like I'm going to start digressing from the actual conversation. So, I'm going to go ahead and go on with the outro. Like the video if you like what I had to say, or at least how I said it. What else? Comment down in the comment section down below, or reach me at MILLENIANmailmen@gmail.com. I check my email once a week, and I'll answer any related questions on Monday or Tuesdays. Mailman Monday or Tourism Tuesday. And, as always, share for more exposure of myself, the content, or the book I'm writing, Realm of Millenia series. And subscribe if you feel like it. Dislike the video if you obviously don't. And peace, love, and happiness to all, for all, as much as you possibly can. Bye.